I use for history, I try to make history, I try to tell it as a story. You know, if you tell it as a story, and this is the way that I was taught when I was younger, I find it's more interesting. Students have more of a connection to it. If it's told in that way, you introduce the people, the time periods, the inventions, things like that. Students find that interesting if you make it a little more connectable to them as opposed to this happened in this year, know it, move on to the next. The most rewarding part of being a teacher, for me, it's starting the year off with my students and they don't find history interesting, and then by the end of the year, it may not be their favorite subject, but it's something that they do find interesting, that they do like, okay, yeah, I didn't know this and I like it now. You know, and even if they just leave my class and say, you know what, I actually kind of like this a little bit, that's rewarding for me. Well, history in general was when I was in 8th grade with my teacher, Mr. Choate. He was my teacher, and he got my real fascination with history going. He and my grandmother, actually, they were both big history lovers. And then when I started working here at Oak Ridge, it was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I love doing this. The reason I have chair legs and other items in my classroom, my first year teaching, I was in former D Hall, and my classroom, the teacher had just left the previous year, just retired and left all of her stuff behind. And so I had to get rid of it all. So I found this chair leg and I started just walking around, just tossing it around, spinning it in my hands. And at first my students found that a bit odd. But at the end of the year, 4 of my students found a table on the side of the road. They broke the legs off, spray painted them in different colors, and the last day of school they gave them to me as a gift so I would have more things to use during class. And ever since then, it became a sort of an odd tradition where students just give me stuff, whether it's an axe handle that my students of a class all signed, or one could give me a plunger. I mean, it's just random things that my students give me over the years. The craziest thing, well, plunger is definitely going to be near the top of the list for that. Some of the more unique gifts, I had a student go to Mexico and bring me back a black onyx Aztec sort of it's part hatchet, part knife, basically, that looked like it was like a sacrificial knife from Mexico. That's beautifully done. One of my students last year gave me a t-shirt that says him on it, so I have that hanging in my classroom. So those would definitely be some of the more unique gifts I've had.
I chose to teach world history because there are so many interesting things about history that have happened like over the period of thousands of years. And typically, if you just specialize in one area of history, like US history, then you don't get to teach a whole bunch of it. But I like to go big, and I like to teach all the fun, different stories from all over the place. So that's why I chose it. I was really interested in Japanese because I wanted to learn how to write something that had a different writing system than English. And I began learning Japanese when I was in college, and I found that I really liked it because it made a lot of sense to me and I enjoyed learning it. And from then it just seemed like the next progression to sort of share that with other people, because I know there are a lot of people who want to learn Japanese. I think I enjoy teaching world history more, but I find Japanese more rewarding to teach because you can see the progress of the students learning the language bit by bit every single class period. I went to Klein High School, and then I went to college at University of Texas. I graduated in about 3.5 years. I always enjoy teaching in world history or in US history the units about the world wars, because I feel like those are the ones where students finally get into it, because almost every student has heard at least something about World War I or World War II, and it's hard to get them interested in like the Neolithic Revolution and caveman society, but everyone is excited to learn about Hitler, so that's probably one of the more fun units to teach.
I teach journalism and newspaper, and then I teach interior design 1 and 2 and principles of architecture. I love being creative, and I like to see the students get really creative. It makes it really fun just to see what they come up with and all the different projects. It's really fun. Well, we do a lot of models. We start with some smaller models, and then once you get into interior design too, they become larger and more detailed, but it's a lot of models, like interior models. I started teaching at Oak Ridge a long time ago, and then I started interior design about 4 years ago. I think ideally, I think we would probably sketch to start out with, and then create whatever we sketch, some kind of model from that sketch, and get all the materials out, and just get to be really creative with it. That's hard because I like, journalism is so different than interior design. They're both very creative, but in different ways. And so I like to write, I like to interview and write, and I like to teach kids how to do that. But interior design is really fun too. It's just a totally different kind of creativity. I think I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. It's funny, when I was little, I remember, I would always pretend, play that I was a teacher. And then I think you go through a period where you'd think that that's not maybe the thing that you want to do. But I've really loved teaching. I think it's a great way to, again, I love to watch kids be creative. I love my summers. It's a great job. Well, I think Oak Ridge is a great school. I actually live in Houston, and I drive out here to teach at Oak Ridge because I think the teachers are special. I think the students are special. I think we, there's a lot of different kinds of kids, and we all just kind of work together and make it a really great place to be.